a specialty and a niche.
Sure.
Caliber size and a purpose. What I'm trying to get to is a purpose. Obviously, you're always trying to grow and develop different purposes in your products. But so where do you guys kind of fit in that mix?
Yeah, great question. So FX has really always prided itself on, well, we're always trying to innovate. We're the ones always tinkering. Is there a better way to build something? Is there a different way? It's crazy how many of the innovations in the airgun world have come about because of one man, which is Frederick Axelson. I mean, the hand pump, some of these different things that he's done. And I only say that that's our mindset. We're always about how can we do things different, better, and all in the quest for accuracy. For us, it's all about precision, accuracy, having the best accuracy possible. And to that, historically, we've really kind of stuck more to the pellet side of things, because you have other manufacturers that, the big bore side of things coming from the opposite end, where, big chunks of lead that it's sometimes almost mortar shelling in with a lot of power. And I think there's a sweet spot, because like I was saying earlier, it's like you got the pellet side of accuracy and you got huge, power, foot pounds, and there's kind of that meeting point that I'm seeing in the industry. Because even FX, a couple of years ago, Frederick and us over here, it didn't look like we were really going into bigger calibers than 30 cal, because for us, if we couldn't get that sub MOA, that's our brand and that's what we're known for. So though, for a hunting application, you have a gun that's made like a 2-inch group, that's fine for hunting, but that would be a problem with the brand of FX. But as we kept developing things, we've added 35 caliber, because we were able to get it. We were able to get that sub MOA out to 100 yards. And then particularly we kind of dragged Frederick into the slug market a little bit, in the sense that he was always more pellets because the accuracy, but we work very closely with Matt Dubber, or Air Arms Hunting SA, and he was a big proponent of slugs early on. I remember we had some early conversations, and I could see the juice there too. I could see the need, the desire, because of the BCs for reaching out further, because that's another very American thing. That hitting the dime at 100 yards is awesome, but what if I could get to 150 or 200? And so slugs were providing that, and then the technology and some of the things have come along there, where the slug accuracy is catching up as well. I mean, I would say if you're shooting under 100 or under, I think the pellets still has it on the accuracy. But if you're trying to reach out past 100, that's where slugs get really interesting. I mean, depending on the game, of course, right? But I'm just thinking more of the smaller caliber range.
So what's some of the keys, if you can speak to this, like some of the keys to airgun accuracy that you guys really focus on in the designs? Because I know that sometimes it's always harder, right? To really nail in on accuracy, and that's something that's historically been something that manufacturers are always working on.
Always chasing, right?
How do you what are some of the keys that you guys really stand on when you're building?
Yeah, so the variables are pretty simple. Well, it sounds simple. I mean, there's not that many variables. It's the projectile is a huge part of it, and that's part of the reason when we're talking slugs, that consistency. If you're talking cast slugs, it's never going to get accuracy of swage. You need that consistency, because there's only so much forgiveness. That's pellets have more forgiveness because it shapes the barrel. So you got the projectile, but then it's really about the barrel itself, which with FX we've created our own barrel many years ago, with its own proprietary way of doing it. It's interesting how that came about. We way back in the day, FX, much like a lot of the industry, was ordering Lothar Walther barrels or some of these common things, and the consistency of those barrels, you get 10 and 6 were probably great. 1 was amazing, and then 2 or 3 were junk, and you kind of had this weird kind of, well, what do you do with the good ones? What do you do with the bad ones? What do you do with the middle of the road? And then the bottleneck of, if all of a sudden the firearm industry needs more barrels, understandably, Lothar Walther is probably going to focus on their bread and butter than the small little niche industry, right? So Frederick basically said, "Oh, let me make a barrel, and then like anything, how can we make it barrel?" So that's where we created the smooth twist barrels. It was just a matter of having that under our control and having the consistency, so that you don't have to barrel shop necessarily, right? Because you've heard about that, firearms and air guns for years. It's like, oh, I got a good barrel, right? We're trying to make it where every barrel is a good barrel, and a lot of people don't realize this, but when some of our guys come over to competitions, they don't fly with their own guns. Like, some of the guys overseas, they can't fly over with an air gun. We literally just a week before go to our shelf, take the guns off the shelf, and they shoot them. And that kind of goes to our confidence of our barrels are that consistent. So the barrel has a huge part of it. And then the power leading up to it, meaning that's where you see a lot of talks about regulators and hammers, and why people are obsessed with chronographs and shooting their gun over and seeing the shot strings. Is that that pressure behind it. If there's some consistency in there, then you can count on it being the same every time. If it fluctuates, the days before regulators and stuff, it was hard to get, as you shot, you had a curve, right? Versus with the regulator, you can really get some consistency there. And obviously there's other aspects that go into that as well, but those are the big ones.